What's up, guys? I'm making a video on overheating with Cat 259. I'm pretty sure it's a common thing with this machine, and I'm no mechanic by any means, but I had the worst case scenario happen where I had to replace the head gasket, and I'll walk through kind of that. But first things first, my machine was kind of overheating in this past summer, and for one, if it's overheating, turn the machine off. Don't keep overheating the machine because that can cause more damage to the block and the motor, and it can crack the head and warp it and all that bad stuff. So the first thing I would do if your machine is overheating is this. So first things first, pop this open, clean your radiator out very, very well. What can happen sometimes is if you're working around concrete dust, like really dry dirt, clay, what can happen is that stuff can fall and settle into the radiator and plug it up. And then basically there's no airflow, so the coolant can evaporate itself and it won't ever get cooled down, if that makes sense. And that takes time to get to that point. But if you neglect it and you're constantly overheating your machine and running it hard and not cleaning it out, that can be a result of that. So what I recommend is getting something like this, just degreaser or simple green. And I wouldn't do water first. And the reason I wouldn't do that is because if you try to clean it out with water and there is concrete dust in there, that can actually harden it up and make it worse. So soak it with degreaser and like a type of fluid that breaks that stuff down. And honestly, the first thing you should do is use air, and using like a little blower and blow all the dust out, blow all that crap out, and then do air, then the liquid that breaks that stuff down, and then just thoroughly rinse it out. Try not to get too much water on the electrical components. It's better to pop that piece that the fan is on down like this. It's easier to pop this down and then spray out, but if you aren't smart enough to do that, use the air and then that like simple green or whatever to spray on there and just soak it, let it break down. And then the next thing I would do is check the coolant, and you do not want to fill it into here. You want to fill it into the actual thing up top. And once you clean out the radiator and then you fill it with coolant, get it up to operating temps to, I think it's 160-ish. The thermostat, which is located right here, that should open up and allow this, allow the return to go through and start actually cycling the coolant. It won't do that until you get it up to operating temps. And then once that happens and it starts cycling it, pop that open and keep adding coolant until all the air bubbles are burped out of it and the machine. In a perfect world, if that solves your overheating issue, this line right here, while you're at operating temps, should fill up to here, and then when you shut off the machine, it should come down to here. I did all of that and it still did not help me. So the result of that was I had Caterpillar actually come out, and I replaced my thermostat, cleaned everything. I even put a new water pump in, but I was honestly just throwing parts of this thing because I was hoping for a Hail Mary before somebody told me that it was a head gasket. So, and if I would have known what I know now, I would have known right away that it was a head gasket. But what I did was in the summer, when I cleaned out my radiator and everything and added the coolant, I think I just caught it too late, and I think there was already the head gasket was like just starting to like get blown out, because I got probably a month and a half out of it. And then the last job that I got onto, it would overheat faster and faster, and I was just adding coolant into it, which don't do that. If you have to add coolant every day for it to not overheat, that's not good because you're causing more issues for your engine. You want to catch it early if you do have a blown head gasket. just so it's less machine work getting it to like an operating point to where you can reuse it. None of that stuff helps you, and you run your machine and you get it to operating temps and this thing gets filled up really fast, you've got a blown head gasket because there is exhaust that's getting put into your coolant system. And you can check your oil too, and if there's coolant in your oil, that means that it's pretty far gone. But the head gasket is right in here, so you can kind of look around to see if you've got any blowouts or anything. But that's what I dealt with the overheating issue and how Caterpillar determined that it was a head gasket. So first things first, if you want to try this at home, clean this thing out real well, like I said. Check the coolant levels. Make sure that your thermostat is opening and closing. That's the easiest fix. I'm no mechanic by any means, but just trying to help out somebody that is going through the same thing that I went through, because it's not fun. One nice part too about owning a Caterpillar is their service and parts department. They're very, very, very helpful with, if you don't have the money to have them do it, they can kind of set you up with the parts list. And they even sent me the diagrams on how to disassemble and assemble it. Luckily, I've got good friends who know how to wrench on stuff like this that are better than I am, and I had a hand doing it all, but I was able to do the head gasket myself and pay somebody for half the cost of what Caterpillar wanted for this. I think they wanted $6,000 to do it, which, because it's a ton of work. It absolutely is a ton of work. But I was able to do it, I think, for $3,000, and I think it was $1,200 worth of parts. But I had to drop the head off to a machine shop, like a performance engine shop, so they could mill it and, you know, get it back to a working point to where we could put everything back on. And then I did new hardware throughout the turbo, and basically everything that I took off to get to there, we replaced all the gaskets and hardware for that as well, just to do a really nice job. And so far, everything has been working. And you have to do an oil change and stuff, but those details are in the actual head gasket process. So this is the actual removal procedure that they sent me. So basically it tells you exactly how to do everything step by step, all the torque specs, basically a how-to thing. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're not mechanically inclined, just because it's a lot more intense than a IKEA bedroom setup instruction. Like, you have to be pretty savvy and mechanically inclined to do a project like this, or else you won't know what you're looking at. So I suggest, if you're trying to save money and not have Cat do it, which I'd recommend if you can afford it, they do good work. It's easier for you to just drop your machine off and then you have no headaches and it's done. But if you have somebody in your corner that's really savvy with diesel machinery and diesel motors and just a good wrench, they can get it done if they are patient and have the time. But yeah, so hopefully this helps somebody out, because I could not find a video on it, and it's kind of nerve-wracking, because when you're trying to make money with one of these machines and you don't really know how to diagnose it, it's trial and error. So I went through it for a few weeks, and then I finally just caved and had Cat come give me a diagnosis, and within 10 minutes they ran a pressure test, and they started all with the easy stuff, and then they determined that it was a head gasket. And once we did get it pulled apart, the head gasket was blown just very, very small, but we caught it early enough to where it didn't do too much damage. So like and subscribe. Hopefully this helped somebody out.